Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Today, many of us are also standing in our own battlefields. Not with weapons, but with stress, confusion, fear, relationships, and purpose in life. The Gita is not a book of religion alone. It is a manual for life. It teaches us how to make decisions when we are confused, how to stay calm in difficult situations, how to perform our duties without fear, and most importantly, how to understand who we truly are. Let's start from what is science of the soul.
You are definitely in the right place. The whole philosophy really grounds itself in this one incredibly striking translation from Sanskrit. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. Think about that imagery for a second. It's telling us that our material existence is, by default, a state of darkness. It's full of anxieties and these fleeting, temporary illusions. And the Bhagavad Gita, it's not presented as just another book. It's that literal torch of knowledge, meant to guide us out of the misery of material existence.
Section 1, the torch of knowledge.
Section 2, the architecture of reality, the 5 basic truths. You know, the journey here really starts with a mystical hook. Human awakening. The text points out that out of millions of people just kind of enduring life, only a tiny fraction ever stop to ask the truly deep questions. Things like, why am I actually suffering? Or where did all this come from? That moment of waking up from the illusion to ask about the absolute truth, that is where real humanity begins. To get a grip on the macro architecture of our universe, we need to break down these 5 Sanskrit terms. It's basically the makeup of the entire cosmic manifestation. First, there's Ishvara, the supreme controller, or God. Then we have the jivas, that's the living entities. Yeah, that's us, the controlled. Third is Prakriti, which is material nature itself. Fourth is Kala, eternal time, which governs how long the universe lasts. And finally, karma, which covers all the various activities happening within this material nature. Literally everything we experience fits right into these 5 buckets. Now, here is where it gets super interesting. A real, wait, what kind of moment. Out of these 5 truths, 4 are actually eternal. God, the soul, material nature, and time. Even if material nature occasionally unmanifests, like a cloud disappearing in the sky, it always exists as an energy. But karma, our activities and the reactions to them, that is the odd one out. Karma is not eternal. And this is a massive game changer, because it means that even if we're dealing with the deeply entrenched results of our past actions, we absolutely have the power to change those results once we get purified knowledge. We aren't just stuck.
Section 3, the driver and the machine. So let's zoom in from that cosmic scale down to everyday logic to see how this all interacts. We really need to look at the illusion of our own control, right? The source defines Prakriti, material nature, as an unconscious energy. It does not operate on its own. The text makes it clear that Prakriti is subordinate, it's controlled. Think of it as the heavy machinery of the material world. It literally can't do anything without a conscious director behind the scenes, just like a complex piece of engineering needs a human engineer to run it.
This is illustrated perfectly with an automobile analogy. Imagine a little kid watching a car cruise down the street. To the kid, the car looks like it's running all by itself, like some magical beast. But any sane adult knows there's a ton of complex engineering going on, and more importantly, there's a driver steering the wheel. We do this all the time, don't we? We look at the wonders of cosmic nature and just marvel at them independently, completely missing Ishvara, the supreme controller, who's actually the ultimate driver steering the whole machine. So naturally, you might be wondering, where do we fit into all this? Well, the text draws a sharp contrast between Ishvara, the infinite controller, and the jiva, the living entity. We're described as parts and parcels of the supreme. It's like a single drop of ocean water. That drop is definitely salty, just like the vast ocean, but it's just a tiny, minute quantity. In the same way, we possess the qualities of the Supreme Lord, including that urge to control our environment, but only in a super tiny subordinate amount. Basically, we are tiny controllers, not the Supreme One.
And this brings us right to a major pitfall, the false ego. When our tiny consciousness gets contaminated by material nature, we slip into a false consciousness. We start genuinely believing, hey, I'm the Lord of all I survey. I'm the creator, I'm the ultimate enjoyer here. Demystifying this false ego is absolutely crucial. Why? Because believing we are the ultimate lords of our surroundings is exactly the trap that keeps us tied to all the anxieties and miseries of material existence. To really anchor this relationship between the soul and the supreme, the text uses this brilliant metaphor of the stomach and the limbs. Imagine if your fingers suddenly decided they wanted to enjoy your dinner directly, refusing to pass the food down to your stomach. They'd end up frustrated and eventually just wither away, right? The hands, the legs, the teeth, they all have to cooperate to feed the stomach because the stomach is the central entity that nourishes the entire body. In this philosophy, God is that central enjoyer, and we only find our true happiness by cooperating with and serving that whole. Section 4. The Golden Chain of Disciplic Succession. Okay, so how has this incredibly profound, unadulterated knowledge actually survived over time without getting corrupted by our imperfect human minds? It all comes down to the method of transmission. The answer is parampara, which translates to an unbroken chain of disciplic succession. And the text is extremely strict about this. You can't just pick up the Bhagavad Gita and interpret it however you feel like it. It's compared to taking medicine. You have to follow the precise directions on the label or from your doctor. You wouldn't just guess your dosage. In the same way, perfect Vedic knowledge has to be received exactly as directed by the speaker of the Gita, passed from master to disciple, with absolutely no deletions or whimsical personal interpretations. We can actually map out the very start of this golden chain. According to the text, the supreme truth was handed down first by Krishna, to Brahma, the first created being, who then passed it to Narada, who passed it to Vyasa. This specific lineage is what ensures the knowledge isn't infected by everyday human defects. You know, like our tendency to make mistakes, get illusioned, cheat, or just rely on our imperfect senses. And honestly, this is exactly why Arjuna's role in the Bhagavad Gita is so highlighted. He is the perfect student. He wasn't just some scholar doing detached intellectual research. He was a devoted friend acting in a submissive spirit. He says, point blank, I accept everything you say to be true. The argument here is that the great mystery of the universe can only really be unlocked through the spirit of devotion and submission to an authoritative source, fully recognizing the speaker of the Gita as the supreme authority. Section 5. The Eternal Occupation. This leads us right to the grand conclusion of the Gita's introduction, stepping out of these temporary bodily labels we wear to embrace the ultimate eternal purpose of the soul. The term for this purpose is Sanatana Dharma. Now, the text is very careful to explain that this is not a sectarian religion. It's not some temporary faith you just adopt today and drop tomorrow. Sanatana means that which has neither beginning nor end, and Dharma refers to the constant, essential characteristic of something. Put them together, and Sanatana Dharma is the eternal, completely inescapable function of the soul itself. So the real distinction to grasp here is between temporary religious labels and universal truth. You might identify as Hindu, Christian, or Muslim today, and theoretically, you could change that label tomorrow based on your faith or circumstances. That's sectarian. But Sanatana Dharma is fundamentally different. It applies to every single living entity in the universe, regardless of their history or geography, because it deals with the constant companion of the soul. Think about it using an elemental analogy. You can't have fire without heat and light, right? If you take away the heat, the word fire loses all meaning. You literally cannot take liquidity away from water. In that exact same way, the eternal religion, the inescapable characteristic of every single living being, is the act of rendering service. Service simply cannot be taken from the soul. And the text proves this by just looking at society. Nobody is exempt from service. Animals serve humans. A mother serves her son. Friends serve friends. The shopkeeper serves the customer. Even a top politician rolls out a massive manifesto just to convince the public of their capacity to serve the voters. At our core, we are all fundamentally and inescapably servitors. It's just hardwired into our nature. So here is the conclusion of this whole philosophical arc. If service is our inescapable nature, why are we suffering? Well, it's because we're busy serving temporary material desires, which are always bound to end. True, permanent happiness, what the text refers to as entering the eternal spiritual sky, is only found when we align that innate, burning desire to serve with the supreme enjoyer. Just like the hand feeding the stomach, We hit ultimate satisfaction when we lovingly cooperate with the Supreme Lord.
Which leaves us with this final thought. We've explored the 5 basic truths, the massive architecture of the cosmos, and this deep science of the soul as a tiny part of a much larger divine whole. If service is indeed the unchangeable heat of your soul's fire, the question isn't whether you will serve, but rather, who or what are you choosing to serve today? It's a deeply provocative question, and it's exactly what the rest of the Bhagavad Gita seeks to answer. Thank you for tuning into this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.
Hare Krishna